But now what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a practical example of something that I call profiles in apathy. I came up with that term years ago after watching worthy project after worthy project fall by the wayside due to lack of gun owner involvement. And I want to tell you why I think it's every bit the enemy that the most committed of gun grabbers are. Where's Lenny Benedetto? Is Lenny around?
Right there. Right there.
Okay, yeah, Lenny, founding member of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, the folks that are responsible for bringing us all here today. They're the state's largest grassroots gun rights group. And as you know, they're leading in the lawsuit along with NRA to challenge the new law. But I don't need to tell anyone here that, because we all know. Anyway, Lenny spent several hours that morning passing out CCDL cards and talking to those standing in line before a police lieutenant ordered him to stop or be arrested for soliciting. And he soon found, this was amazing, that the vast majority of those in line were not members, and many had never even heard of CCDL. Let me ask you something. If CCDL had 10, 20, 100 times the committed membership, might the new laws have been stopped in their tracks?
No. Wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter, David. They were going to push it through no matter what.
They were going to push it through no matter what, but if you guys had 100 times the people that were committed to work for polls, to work for politicians, to fund lawsuits, to do everything that's needed to get the word out, I submit we'd have a different picture. But it's the level of detachment, apathy, and non-involvement, and it's hardly exclusive to Connecticut, because the same story can be told by the leadership of any number of state gun rights groups, where it's always a core of dedicated individuals straining to bear a load that could be shared by many, but somehow it never is.
We got jobs and the liberals don't.
Well, that's true, but you know what? We all have jobs. I submit that everyone who belongs to the NRA has a job as well. And we're the ones out there, but look at it, of the 80 million gun owners, something like 5 million are members of the NRA. Look at how few have joined, how many fewer support much smaller groups like Gun Owners of America and the Second Amendment Foundation, or educational groups like Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. This has to change, and immediately. Why? Well, what are we here for today? If a lot more gun owners don't get involved, perhaps the bold chat room warriors that I referred to earlier will get the chance to demonstrate to their brethren here in Connecticut how much better they'll perform when it's their turn to show the stuff they're made of. So, what is it that we do? Okay? What is it that we do? First, we join with others, like we're doing right now. Look, if you don't like one group, find one you can support. You don't like lobbying, find a group that educates. And that means support them, including financially. You know, we heard about the lawsuit. Very expensive proposition. And yeah, times are tough. I understand that. Times are tough on all of us. Do what you can, but don't let others who are also strapped do it all. What else? Some of you are going to be better suited to taking people shooting, training the next generation. I don't know, what is it that you find rewarding? What is it that you're enthusiastic doing? Do that. Some of you will find your talents best expressed in writing, and there's plenty of need to get well-written letters to the editor out there to correct the foaming at the mouth bias. But enough of the Hartford Current. Actually not. I told you I continued to rewrite the speech, and so this part here, I've got to bear in and make sure my ant fryers here are focused and get into my handwritten scribbling and see if I can decipher the ancient hieroglyphics that I call handwriting. Because by not, by calling for arrests and prosecutions, they've removed all pretenses to being about common sense gun safety. Okay, these are the people that Dianne Feinstein calls real reporters, Joe Biden calls legitimate news media. I call them fourth estate, fifth columnists. And I understand that there was a cartoon and a little essay written by Bob Englehart. And he's got a wonderful idea. He says, repeal the Second Amendment, and that's going to solve it all. That's what this guy thinks. You know what? This guy is presuming to teach, and he doesn't even belong in a remedial civics class. I'd like to read you a little something from the Heller decision. It's always been widely understood that the Second Amendment, like the First and Fourth Amendment, codifies a pre-existing right. The very text of the Second Amendment implicitly recognizes the pre-existing, told you hieroglyphs, of the right and declares only that it shall not be infringed. And this is the Supreme Court saying, as we said in U.S. versus Cruikshank, this is not a right granted by the Constitution. Neither is it in any manner dependent on that instrument for its existence. This is our right, and this is something that the progressives don't understand. They somehow think that our unalienable privileges bestowed upon us by our masters in government. They think that's the way it's supposed to work. This, of course, is the UN theory of rights as well. You can have what privileges we say until we say you can't. Wrong. And in terms of Bob Englehart, anybody see Tropic Thunder? Okay. Buddy, you went full Englehart. You never go full Englehart. Okay, here's one. Here's another little thing. You can get onto social media, all right? I know a lot of you turn your noses up that and you consider it a silly waste of time. And if all you're doing is inviting people to play Bubble Safari and sharing trivia and stupid videos, it is. But these are also utilities for spreading important information. And I think we've seen this recently in the Ukraine, we've seen it in Venezuela, the way that people get information out there. Think in terms of our being able to use it, command, control, communications, and intelligence. Because you better believe the other side is using this and mastering it. And if you refuse to, what you're doing is you're ceding an entire area of operation to them without challenge. And what do once they establish and secure a beachhead? They use it to launch their next and deeper assault. Don't give that to them. Make them fight for every inch. Now, some of you will actually enjoy politics. And if you're good at it, that can be a lot of fun. Thing is, we all know there's plenty of politicians who have a huge but. Okay? As in, I support the Second Amendment, but. And then they come up with all kinds of ridiculous cop-outs and betrayals. And so I guess what I'm going to say is don't fall for charlatans. How do you know? You can come up with ways to separate the wheat from the chaff and get them to unequivocally go on the record for where they stand, what laws they consider constitutional, why, and importantly, what they'll work to get rid of, because regardless of what some of them may have told you, it's not enforce existing gun laws, it's repeal the damn things. Now, true, politicians lie, no duh, but pinning them down with specifics makes that a lot harder to get away with. But then here's the thing. Say you find a good one. We've been introduced to some good ones here today. Will you let such a politician stand alone? Because it would be a lot easier for them to play it safe. If you expect them to take the difficult route and actually be leaders, you have to be ready to stand beside them and stand behind them. And this brings up another area just crying for involvement, one that's hardly glamorous or instantly gratifying, but one that's nonetheless critical if your niche is political, and that's getting involved at the precinct level. I'm over here. I will not obey. Getting out the vote and directing party choices. A friend of mine, Dan Schultz, has put together some real good information on this. Right now, he tells me over half the precinct committeeman slots are vacant in both major political parties in this country, and that cries for freedom-minded people to fill up those slots. And again, if you want to learn more about this, if you Google precinct projects and my last name, that'll get you to some links where you can learn a lot more. But now here's the thing, all this stuff I've just been talking about, it presupposes that we're living in normal times, doesn't it? And things are hardly normal in Connecticut right now. The state is trying to ram intolerable acts down your throats, and it looks like a critical mass of you are telling them that you're not going to cooperate, that you refuse to obey, and that you will not disarm. And see, that's the first step, even before fixing on what you will do, like join a group or engage in activism or participate in politics. We have to come to grips in our own minds with what our own conscience will allow us to do and not to do. And the rest of the gun owners, not just in Connecticut, but the truth is the entire country, are watching to see what happens here. And they're going to take their lead from you. From you. That's right, you. Because, let me tell you something. By virtue of the fact that you are here today and others aren't, guess what? Like it or not, you are leaders. Did you think that it's just us guys up here at the microphone with our names on the program? Remember how I started out this talk? I'm one of you. And remember how I said it's personal for me and I will not obey? I didn't say we, because I can't speak for you and I can't demand that you make a terrible choice that no one has a right to force on you and maybe pay a terrible price that no one has a right to demand from you. Only you can make that call. So speaking for myself, I can stand here in front of this monolith to the state and I can let them know one simple truth. I will not obey orders for Americans to surrender their arms. I will not obey.
I will not obey!
If you'd like to join me, if you'd like to join me, they'd like to join me, feel free to say it with me and let them know. I will not obey. Now, where does Governor Malloy hang out on weekends in relation to this place? No matter. I'll say it a bit louder so that he can hear. And again, those of you who want to, feel free to chime in. I will not obey. There's another guy now. There's another guy who needs to hear this, and that's the head hatchet man, Mike Lawler. This is the guy who said you can either surrender the weapon to us, destroy the weapon, or sell it to a federal firearms licensee. And after January 1st, if it hasn't been declared or registered, it's banned, and if you get caught, you're going to be arrested. In other words, disarm or he will destroy you. This guy thinks that's his lot in life. Well, you know what, Mr. Lawler? I will not obey. I will not obey. And there's one final guy that I'd like to give an honorable mention to. This is the enforcer from Brantford who wanted to give up a part of his anatomy because he couldn't wait to bang down doors. We'll just call him Nutty or maybe Lefty. Anyway, I understand he's on leave and maybe in hiding right now, so maybe this one ought to be just a bit louder so he can hear us. I will not obey. I'd like to leave you with a quote from one of my heroes, a great American hero, Henry David Thoreau, author of Civil Disobedience. One of my favorite quotes: I was not designed to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest. God bless you people. I'm on. Thank you. I will not obey.
Thank you, David Codrea. Check